The Ruhr Valley, which the mayor refers to, is a product of old country negligence. It's the important German mining and industrial region centered on the Ruhr River, which flows into the Rhine. In Chemical and Engineering News for May 17, 1976, an article appears about the advanced state of pollution of the Rhine River and about the attempts of 5 countries, France, West Germany, Luxembourg, the Netherlands, and Switzerland, to stem pollution and clean it up. The pollution comes from power plants, synthetic chemical industries, and mines with their associated chemical plants. The pollutants range from thermal pollution in the air and water to the worst kind of chemical pollution, non-biodegradable synthetic chemicals and compounds of heavy metals such as mercury and lead. It is estimated that the waste being dumped into the Rhine is equivalent to a freight train load 18 miles long every day. As long as 60 years ago, people complained that the fish being caught tasted of carbolic acid. Today, the few remaining kinds of fish in the Rhine are unpalatable.
As long as we've got inflation, which we're going to be continually facing, we feel, I think this country is, and we've got escalation, and cost of labor and materials and all are going to go up. And I would say that with Marble Hill in operation, that we can show that the cost of a kilowatt hour to produce a kilowatt hour from nuclear on our system is pretty close to 40% less than the cost to generate the same kilowatt hour from coal.
Dr. James Coughlin, a long-term corporate man, is a long-term proponent of nuclear power, whether it be for an electric plant or a submarine, certainly not for a bomb. Dr. James Coughlin has faith in nuclear energy. He professes that it is safe. He equates nuclear power with national economic security. He's a veteran, and he did not vote for President-elect Jimmy Carter. His business life is about paying the bills. In 1974, the day after New Year's Day, Dr. James Coughlin became vice president in charge of the nuclear division of Public Service Company of Indiana, Incorporated.
You see, people forget coal prices don't stay put either. They're increasing. I'll give you an example. We thought in 1973, 72 or 3, evaluating coal and nuclear, that by 1982, in the early 80s, that coal would run about 56 cents a million BTU. That's a unit we use. Right today, here in 1976, it's 65 cents. So we're looking at coal cost of well over $1 in the 80s, compared to, maybe 70 cents for nuclear. Now, I want to make my point clear that due to inflation, if it continues and all, we will be coming in for rate increases in the future. But the size of the rate increase would be considerably smaller with the nuclear plants running than without them.
Dr. James Coughlin likes to talk facts. Facts he can use to defend and promote nuclear safety.
Well, here again, we call it defense in depth. And by that I mean we use a defense in depth in the design, the construction, and the operation, as long as that plant's going to operate, to take every single precaution. And we have redundant systems on redundant systems on redundant systems. And we have stringent quality control, quality assurance requirements. We are inspected almost constantly once the plant goes into construction by the Nuclear Regulatory Commission inspectors and surveillance group. We have our own program. And with all these backup safety systems and all the alarms, and they're all in a very, very conservative design and construction requirements, that we keep that defense in depth approach as our main goal at all times, even in the operation of these plants. So that another thing in the operation of a nuclear power plant, the day it starts until the day we decommission or shut it down because more efficient plants are available, we have a continuous surveillance and inspection program the operators do at these plants. And we operate these plants in accordance with what we call the technical specifications that are approved by the Nuclear Regulatory Commission prior to getting the operating license. See, we got to go through this process again to get an operating license that we're going through now for the construction permit. And the least deviation from those technical specifications must be reported publicly to the NRC, and the public's aware of it. Now, there's no other industry that is required to do this. That could even mean the dial on a gauge being a 1/16 of an inch out of the tech specs. No problem, but it's got to be reported. And what I'd like to people that say that nuclear is not safe is let's talk facts. Let's talk about the record. Since 1957, the first nuclear plant went in service in this country on the Duquesne Light System outside of Pittsburgh. And we have 62 licensed to operate today. Now, if we take the experience we've accumulated with our commercial nuclear power plants, and let me include the Navy, their nuclear plants too, we've got over 2,000 reactor years of operation. There's never been one person hurt or killed from the operation of these plants. And there's no technology known to man that's been more researched, tested, and regulated than the nuclear power industry. And I saw a statistic not long ago that if we take other industries, like commercial aviation, take the automobile industry, and the others, if they had to meet the stringent requirements and regulations that we have to from a safety standpoint, there's not enough money in the world to do it. Take medicine. People using x-ray machines. And it worries me when I go get an x-ray with a technician. And I hope the heck she knows or he knows what they're doing. I don't want to get any more than I have to. So it's got, nuclear power has got the safest record of any industry in the world. And that record will be maintained.
In the March 11th edition of the Madison Courier, it was stated that the required public hearings were to be held in the summer of '76. Those hearings have not yet been scheduled. Public Service Indiana now expects the hearings to be held this coming January early in the month. PSI is also waiting for the results of a third pre-conference hearing scheduled for the 2nd of December. At this pre-hearing, further efforts will be made by the licensing board to consolidate the contentions of a dozen opposing groups recognized by the NRC as legitimate interveners. So when the public hearings themselves begin, there will be more order in the courtroom, so to speak. When the third pre-conference hearing was scheduled by the licensing board, it indicated that the Marble Hill case could become the longest, most argued over on record. A requirement for the vice presidential position of any corporation is keeping your cool when subject to delay. Dr. James Coughlin knows that delay means opposers will be allowed more time to strengthen their legal stands for the public hearings. He knows delay means higher costs for labor, materials, and fuel. He knows delay means frustration in trying to build his first nuclear power plant for Public Service Indiana. That's what he was hired to do.
Now, we're going to have a public hearing in Madison. Our next pre-hearing conference prior to the hearing is December 2nd in Madison. And we look for the public hearing on the environmental issues in early January. And if that hearing board finds that everything's in order and it's favorable, they will grant us what we call a limited work authorization. So we can start some site work when it's limited and it's at our risk. In other words, if we don't get the full construction permit, which we expect to get in April of next year, then we have to restore the site the way it was. But I'm confident that we're going to get the limited work authorization and the full construction permit in April. See, we have to go back then and have a hearing on safety issues if there are contentions by interveners. So far, we've got very little, if any, questions on the safety, which should have, by the environmental groups, been given to the NRC at the same time they gave their environmental concerns and contentions.
I try each day to make headway, but all I get is delay, delay, delay. All I get's delay, 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 delay. Appointments canceled today because there's been more delay, delay, delay. All I get's delay, 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 delay. And I read what the memos say. They say sorry about the delay. Delay, delay. All gets delayed. Delay, delay, delay. And I hear what the newsmen say, and all mean more delay. Delay, delay. All gets delayed. Delay, delay, delay. All gets delayed. Delay, delay, delay.
Hugh A. Barker is Executive Vice President of Public Service Company of Indiana Incorporated. He'd prefer you call him Al. He's the kind of guy who'll call you from Pittsburgh to tell you he'll have to delay his appointment with you for an hour and a half because he's tied up in a meeting. He too understands that waiting can be translated into costs. He puts a lot of faith in his government. He puts a lot of faith in Nuclear Regulatory Commission documentation. Al Barker is deliberate and cautious. He's an accountant by profession. He has a habit of pounding softly on the conference table with his fist when he talks. He's profound.
The fact is that the nuclear plant is, number one, an economic choice. That's an economic choice for our customers because nobody can pay the bill except our customers. It means, in comparison, lower costs in their electric bill. It is the cleanest, it's the most environmentally desirable means of building to supply energy. Now let's go beyond that because I think it's important to understand that when we make a choice between a coal plant and a nuclear plant, this is not a mutually exclusive choice as far as our industry is concerned or as far as we're concerned. We will be probably the state's largest consumer of coal for many, many years to come, and increasing amounts. But the fact is that if we are going to avoid a real catastrophe in this country economically, if we're going to provide jobs, if we're going to provide economic activity, when I say jobs, for our kids and for those who, by the way, are looking for jobs today. If we're going to get that done, it can't be done without expansion of energy resources.
You immediately sense as soon as you meet Ron Flugie that he's one of those guys who graduated at the top of his class. Your feelings are confirmed when he lays aside his slide rule and starts talking about his former employer, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. During his tenure as a reactor engineer, Ron Flugie scrutinized the construction of 6 nuclear power plant reactors, and he issued the NRC permits for their operation. A month ago, he quit the NRC. Frustrated back home in Jackson, Missouri, he told us that serious dangers have always been connected with nuclear power plants cooled by water under high pressure, as the proposed Marble Hill plant is to be.